Hey everyone, this is Danielle with Our Roaming Hearts, and today I want to talk about the Weeki Wachee Mermaids. These guys are the mermaids that you hear about from the Weeki Wachee State Park. I want to share 21 facts and tidbits you may not know about them. Now, just a brief introduction to Weeki Wachee State Park. It was founded in the 1940s, and it was just a little roadside attraction with nothing but the mermaids doing some underwater performances, and that was back before they actually became mermaids. It was just women doing some underwater choreography. After it was bought by ABC, like ABC News, they turned it into more of a attraction and put in there's a water park now and a riverboat tour and a wildlife show, and they have the mermaid show, and the mermaids are still the main attraction. In 2008, it was turned into a state park, and the state park now runs it because of the natural springs, but it is still a huge attraction. I will be posting more about the state park and all the other events, and I will link to it in the comments below. If you like this video, don't forget to give me a like and subscribe. Now let's jump into 21 facts and tidbits about the Weeki Wachee Mermaid. When I first saw the mermaids, I really thought that because of all that is involved, that really they would be paid pretty well, right? So I did a little bit of digging, and they are only paid about $12 an hour to start. You have to be available to work 4 days a week at least, and shows are put on 365 days a year. So this is an ideal job for college students. You're about an hour north of Tampa, so you'll get a lot of college students that go to school there. And really, it's not as much as you would think, or at least that I thought it would be. So that was an interesting fact for me. They are basically underwater ballet dancers. They do their moves are all choreographed to music underwater, and it does take some talent and to be able to move, so they have to be able to be flexible a little bit, and you'll see some of the moves that they do. I couldn't do it even underwater. Next, they have said that the hardest thing to master is not the choreographed moves or swimming underwater. It is how to use the breathing hose. You have to be able to turn it on and off, and you can't take in too much air or you float too high. If you don't take in enough air, you sink. They do not wear weights or floats, and it's all controlled by the amount of air that they take in. They also have to be able to turn the air off so it's not leaking air during the performance, but also be able to turn it on when they do want it to use the air. As you can see, they do use those air pumps and the bubbles as part of the show. The last time that the park held auditions for Want to Be Mermaids, they had over 50 applications. Of those 50 applications that actually showed up to the park, 60% of them didn't even make it past the endurance test to be a mermaid. That means that they had to be able to swim 400 yards in a certain amount of time. They had to be able to do it in about 15 minutes, I believe. And they had to be able to do it against the 5-mile-per-hour current that's in the stream. Of the 40% that did pass the endurance test, only 3 of them were hired on to become a mermaid. Think about that. 50 applications. And in the end, only 3 of them were hired. They have a whole mermaid test that you have to pass to be able to become a mermaid. And if you watch their Instagram, I'll link to it below, they do share their mermaid tests. And one of the things that they post about regularly is that the mermaids have to be able to swim the length of 5 of the windows of the underwater theater in one breath. And so many of them are able to do it. It is just amazing to watch. Another tidbit, there have been approximately 1,500 mermaids that have swam in the Weeki Wachee Springs since the show started about 60 years ago. That's a massive amount if you really sit down and think about it. The park's name, Weeki Wachee, is a Seminole name that came from Little Spring or Winding River. And that is because the spring makes up over 100 million gallons of clear water that comes from the cavern that the mermaids swim in daily. So think about it. The Weeki Wachee Mermaids name means little spring mermaids or winding river mermaids. Now these mermaids have to swim with the animals in the springs. This is a natural springs. And when we saw the show, they had everything from fish in there to a little sea turtle that swam in and stole the show. They have been known to see the water moccasins in there that they have to watch out for. There has been garfish, there has been manatees that have swum into the show, even an alligator. So they have to be very vigilant during their show, and the whole cavern and the whole show area is checked multiple times a day. Okay, number 9. The water is an average of 72 to 74 degrees a year. That may sound warm, but it's actually pretty cold. It is said that the women that leave the springs shivering from the 30-minute performance. They perform 30-minute shows 4 times a day. The mermaids not only swim, but smile and kindly bat away the turtles and other fish throughout the show. I read somewhere that for every 30 minutes that they're in the water, their body temperature drops 1 degree. So that's something that they have to keep in mind and stay safe with. These mermaids can deep dive approximately 100 feet in the spring. The springs are 400 feet deep. I also read somewhere that they have to have a certified scuba diving license. I don't know if that's true. I wasn't able to find information stating either way, but think about it. They dive without all the equipment down to 100 feet. During the show, one of the shows I was able to attend, I was able to get an upfront seat with my daughter, and you could see that they have the ground that you see in the show, but if you watch, if you were able to lean up in the front row and look, the mermaids go down into the spring cavern in the back, and there's certified scuba divers with their tanks and everything on, and they help them change. So they do change underwater right there. And you couldn't see them change, but you would go down there, they change. Like I saw one of their heads at one point, and then they come back out in a new outfit. Many of the professional mermaids can hold their breath for up to 4 minutes. Weeki Wachee mermaids also have to be able to free dive up to 117 feet below the surface of the springs as they perform. So that's another part of your test that you have to be able to pass to become a Weeki Wachee mermaid. This is the deepest naturally formed spring in the United States, which is what makes it an amazing attraction and why it was taken over as a state park. The oldest mermaid still performing is 76-year-old Dottie Mears, and she performed a while ago when she was young and in her 20s. She stopped, had a family, and through a program that they offer was able to come back and now performs a couple days a week as well. Shows are held 365 days a year and between 3 to 4 shows a day depending on their schedule. When I was there in July of 2019, they did have 4 shows. They had The Little Mermaid, which they put on twice a day, and then they had a History of Weeki Wachee show, which they were just rehearsing. It was in a practice mode while we were there, and we were able to sit in and watch them practice it. And it includes the history and some of the stunts that they can do, including eating and drinking underwater. It also talked about the different people that visited. Guests that have visited this park include Elvis Presley, Don Knotts, Esther Williams, Arthur Godfrey, Kevin Smith, and Larry the Cable Guy. Hollywood has used the attraction and the springs to film several movies and TV shows, including Mr. Peabody and the Mermaid in 1948, Neptune's Daughter in 1949, and several television shows like Bobcat Goldthwait's Misfits and Monsters in 2018. I've never heard of that one, but now I kind of want to look it up. At one point, the attraction was owned by ABC, the news station. And as I mentioned before, it was then taken over by the Florida Department of Environmental Protection and became part of the state park system on November 1st, 2008. They did a whole promotion on it being the newest Florida state park. It was pretty cool to watch. Fun little fact, there have been scenes of the mermaids in the Weeki Wachee Springs in Kelly Clarkson's music video, Stronger What Doesn't Kill You. I actually had to go and look it up on, you can find the video here on YouTube. I will link to it below. And there's actually a couple scenes of the Weeki Wachee Mermaids. Back when the whole show started, the original mermaids, before they were actual mermaids, they were just underwater dancers. There was no marketing. They didn't have the regular marketing that they did now. People didn't know who they were. They were just this roadside attraction. So when the girls would hear a car coming down the road, they would run outside in their bathing suits and lure travelers over and then run in and jump in and do a show for them. So they would do multiple different shows, and it quickly became a famous roadside attraction. You know, go and see the underwater girl. And then it turned into mermaids, which brought them in. Now the mermaids do travel, and they do different shows in aquariums across the country, and have even been known to swim in aquariums with sharks. They have done on-stage performances in their full mermaid getup with people like Jimmy Buffett. And it's just a worldwide phenomenon now. Like, people know who the Weeki Wachee Mermaids are, and you can only see them in their home. I don't want to say you can only see them, because obviously you can see them in different aquariums, but they are the only home of living mermaids in the country there at Weeki Wachee State Park. And the last little tidbit that I want to share with you, did you know that there are more mermaids performing in Weeki Wachee State Park than live in the city of Weeki Wachee, Florida? That's right. Since the 2000 census until current date, there have only been 12 people living in the city of Weeki Wachee, Florida. 12 people. That is how small the actual area is. There have been upwards of 15 or more mermaids performing in the park regularly. So that's some amazing information. And these shows are absolutely amazing. They took the latest show of the Weeki Wachee history and even did a tribute to Elvis, since Elvis visited, doing a performance to Jailhouse Rock. As you can see, it's just beautiful. They were so good at just being very engaging, and even after the shows, you're able to go and have your picture taken with a mermaid. There's my kids having their picture taken. My youngest wasn't very thrilled. I'm sure she's going to wish she was when she's older and sees the photo. But my kids just had a blast, and they were just enthralled through the whole show. This picture here is of my middle child, and she was just amazed by the show, and she was the one that is obsessed with mermaids. She sat front row with me and did not take her eyes off of the mermaids. She would not talk to me. She wanted nothing to do with me during the entire show, and afterward it was all she talked about for days. And even to this day, she still will tell people, I got to see a mermaid, I want to be a mermaid when I grow up, and just launches into the story, and it's just amazing to watch. If you liked this video, I would love it if you would like it down below. Subscribe, give me a thumbs up. I'm happy to answer any questions about the park, and I hope that you'll come back and see some more from me. I hope to talk with you guys soon.